Bonjour à tous et à toutes.
Everyone, what is the common point between child protection online, digital democracy, valorization of your health data, and the authentication of contents at the time of AI? There's the central is the digital identity. It can be slightly technical topic, but in the end, it's a technology that has an impact of each of the aspects of our online life, and in a big part also outside of our online pathways that allows us, for instance, to vote remotely in a time where people go on less and less voting, and we even have problems finding volunteers to attend the electoral office. It would also allow us to create votations like the Swiss do's on specific questions. It's a technology that also allows us to keep and to safeguard our health data, to avoid having to do numerous tests, because everything would be locked in a safe box. And if we have an accident, if we are unconscious, a technology that would allow the health services to immediately access to your health file, to your basic health file, to save your life. And you have a connected watch, for instance, that is a technology that would allow you to aggregate all these complementary data that would allow you maybe an AI to help you doctor to predict or to diagnose something that could happen to you. A technology that also allows to safeguard and authentify the contents that are generated by the AIs or by humans, to sign them and to ensure that what you receive is what has been sent by the Reuters agency or by a journalist, for instance. So it is extremely important, and of course it is a technology that will allow you to protect children online, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So a technology, absolutely central technology. My name is Edric Salobir. I'm the president of the executive committee of the Human Technology Foundation, and together with the Liberty Project and a certain number of partners, we have decided to work on this technology and on these best practices in order to able to provide elements to those who develop these technologies and those who use them. This report is the follow-up of something we had started already 2 years ago at the request of the Canadian government to provide practices and public policy elements around the digital identity. And now we wanted to be far more pragmatic, much more concrete, and now we will deal with the use case in order to clearly define what are the best practices and try to find what can be technically done, what is socially acceptable, and what is efficient. And for this, we have the luck of having a panel of contributors to this report, some of the most eminent contributors. This is the work that we've carried out together with McCarthy Tétrault, the group of American lawyers, and the group La Poste, with whom we work a lot. And so this panel will be animated by Jean-Michel Miss, who is one of the senior advisors of our foundation. I would like to thank Jean-Michel and also the panelists, and ask him to welcome them here on stage. Hello, everyone. Thank you, dear Eric, for this introductory words. My name is Jean-Michel. I will be the moderator for today's roundtable. I am extremely happy to welcome today a panel that is as diverse and international as the report, and I would like to welcome here Candice Dauge, who is the head of a digital identity solution at Poste, which is the digital subsidiary of the group La Poste, the French post group. Morgan, associate lawyer at McCarthy Tétrault, who's come directly from Montreal to participate in this roundtable, and also Primo Vala, who is associate lawyer at DTMV Avocat in Paris and Lyon. So thanks to all of three of you to have joined us today in this debate. As Eric Salobi just said, I'm going to the report you've all participated in, and on the 4 use cases of digital identity, among them the protection of underage children online. We understand the importance of this use case, and we can imagine that everyone agrees on it, but of course everyone wants to protect underage children. Why is it so difficult to install more safety for underage children in the public, online public space? Yes, if there's a topic on which there's a consensus, is that we need to protect underage children online, particularly on the internet, with maybe a focus that we can. What internet is, when we think of this huge ocean of access to everyone that contains everything of humanity, good things and bad things, you can access it from anywhere, with terminals that are extremely easy to use, they're present everywhere. So we have an access to the entire ocean from an easy terminal, from your couch, and any child, a 2-year-old child, can learn it. It's a fantastic access to knowledge, with also a huge list of dangers, because you have very damaging contents, you have sexual predation, you have cyber harassment. Of course, there is a consensus, you need to protect it. The first thing we need to do, once we have identified this issue, is to think about what already exists, and maybe the first layer of protection is the education, re-education of the population to the dangers of internet, the fact that you need to keep an eye on your child when he is 1 foot away from you, sitting on the couch, and maybe he is navigating harmful contents. You need teach the proper usage and re-identify risky behaviors. When we publish a picture of your children on a social network, that is a risky behavior, even when they're not wearing swimsuits. We also think of reusing the tools that exist. I think particularly the parental controls, that is extremely useful, but is not sufficiently used, and the family terminal, or the tablet, or the smartphone, the parent's smartphone, can be a non-controlled access to the internet. And the legislation that already exists, because there's already legislations for content providers, for adult users. They need to check the age of their users. That must not be underage children. Why is this not being implemented? For lots of reasons. First of all, there's a huge challenge of the protection of private life. How do you control an age without having a privacy problem? Then there's an economical issue, because a content provider for adults, if he limits the access to its content, he's going to lose traffic and he's going to lose revenue. There's also an ownership problem of the solution that is also linked to these habits and education that I was mentioning earlier. The work that we've done in this report has shown something that is extremely interesting. It's that we have use cases together. We have a technology that exists that show that there's a panel of digital solutions that are based on the digital identity and that respect the privacy of the users. So the conclusion that we can have is that we have seen that there is already a technological norm that allows to respect the privacy of the users, all the time protecting underage users. So this needs to become an international standard and norm. It already exists. It's identified. Now we need politically we need to define this. So I think the context in France, we are absolutely in the daily debates that we have today in the Parliament on the law on the protecting minors in the digital space. I would like to ask a question on this to Charles Morgan, because among all these topics, we have a specific topic, which is the ones about porn sites that are really at the heart of this issue, and they already have a certain number of obligations of age verification. This is absolutely clearly not very efficient, since they are technically not managing this all the time by respecting the privacy. Why is it so important and even hard to find proper solutions? Yes, thank you. Yes, before we talk about solutions, we really need to look at the issue and recognize that there is an issue. Since I'm from Canada, I'm going to give you a Canadian comment. The former Prime Minister, Pierre-Elliott Trudeau, the former Prime Minister of Canada, said in the 1970s, during the decriminalization of homosexuality in Canada, that the state has nothing to do in the bedroom of the nation. this was become accepted into progressists to promote a notion of laissez-faire regarding adults between consenting adults' sexuality. But the questions we are talking about today do not concern, and I think it's very important to remind it. It's not we're not talking about consenting adults. We're talking protecting minors before explicit and harmful content. I'm now going to quote some figures and statistics, and I think it's very important to try to understand the implications of these figures. According to a UK Children's Commissioner last year report, the average age of minors accessing to online pornography is 13 years old. 27% had seen it at 11 years, 10% had seen it at the age of 9-year-old. The trend in terms of first access to porn is going down, linked to the age of access to the mobile phone. The youngest start access to porn online, the more are the chances to become an addict or to see contents that are more and more extreme. The younger you start, the more extreme the content. 21% of underage boys access to pornography one or numerous times per day. We don't talk about the blue images of the 1970s where you see through a veil or a cloud, maybe a breast and a nipple. No, we're talking about pornographies that very often shows sexual violence. 79% of young adults haven't seen violent porn and degrading porn before the age of 18. 74% had seen degrading actions and 66% had seen non-consenting sexual acts. The majority of the time, it's women that are the targets of the sexual violence. Pornography is extremely gendered. 65% of the young women between 16 to 21 years had seen acts of violence against actresses, while 29% of young people had acts of violence against male porn actors. This is not without effect. 72% of the respondents in the survey said that pornography had affected their expectations in terms of sexual relations in real life. 66% of girls have indicated that visioning pornography had an image on their body image. 47% indicated that they thought that the girls were expecting to have sexual relations that would imply an aggression, a physical aggression. So I'm leaving you with a very disturbing image. It can seem absolutely common, but we need to change. A young girl from 12 years old that kisses for the first time her boyfriend and then tries to strangle him because the boy tries to strangle her because he'd seen that and he thought that it was normal. This is an act of violence against the little girl, but it's also an act of violence towards the boy. He was basically doing what he'd seen in the porn movie. So since the arrival of the different porn tubes, the children are exposed more and more young to a more and more violent and negative content. And this has a major impact regarding sexual relationships in true life. I would like to get back to what Charles has said, because it seemed after reading the report you've just mentioned, that France would have maybe some advanced technology regarding this issue. How can we allow the respect of privacy and ensure that the person that tries to access to these websites, it's the proper age? Are there technically possibilities for that? And I would like maybe to speak about what this idea of double anonymous is. Thank you, Jean-Michel. Faced with the very alarming figures that Charles just told us, it's important to say that there are solutions and to look at the solutions that exist in order to protect our minors. double anonymity is a concept, it's also a reality. And it meets the double challenge of protecting minors. First of all, it's of course to prevent young children to access to contents that are clearly not meant for them, contents for adults. So legitimacy to legality of the access to these contents. And the second, without violating privacy and the liberty of the netizens, because the protection of privacy is important. So we are with the CNIL, we are the homeland of GDPR, and we need to be GDPR, and of course we need to protect the rights of consenting adults who want to access these contents. So to protect the minors, we need to have an age verification before entering these sites, and with technological identity, digital identity, the major actors are saying that there's no such technology, which is absolutely wrong, because beyond that it's wrong. It took us some weeks to Docapos to produce a first proof of concept showing that it works. So the double anonymity is we have France Connect that we know quite well, that allows the identity suppliers to give the identity of, to check the identity of a supplier, and the provider doesn't know who provided this identity. It's kind of a black box in which we are going to come in. We're only going to prove that we are of age, of the right age. So technology, we have a platform that is going to propose to check the age. We're going to use the La Poste digital identity, or a system of with your credit card or your ID card that was going to check your face identification. We're only going to keep this information that this person is over 18, and we're going to pass that information on to an application. It is called Je prouve mon âge, I prove my age. It's going to say, okay, plus 18. It's not I'm a woman, I'm this, also where do I live? Just it's going to say, okay, plus 18 or plus 15 if we go on digital of age. And then this is going to connect to a platform that's called 18 Connect, that is going to pass it in information to the website. So at no moment can you go back up to the origin of the connection, the netizen that is trying to connect, but we've tested that the person who is going to access the site is truly of age. If I understand well what you have just said, there is a legal obligations to check the age, and there are technical solutions that allow us to do it. So the question, so now I'm asking Charles, and based on this outside look from the American continent on the situation, do you think that this double anonymity is a solution, or what do you think of that, seen from your point of view? You are asking a question because you know perfectly well that the major contribution of Canada towards the internet, it's the creation of the Pornhub website. That's one of our Canadian specialties. Yes, there is a legal obligations in France, maybe in Europe. There is a technological solution that is being implemented and is being available, but the implementation is not guaranteed, and it's not easy. There's lots of resistance. If we look at the legislative aspects, in Australia, the Online Safety Act was modified before it was adopted in order to take away the obligation for the porn sites to block access to underage children. We were mainly focusing on education of parents as far as parental controls are concerned. In Canada, there is a debate, ongoing debate, and the government is proposing to vote an Online Harms Act that is very close to the Australian Act, and it resists the adoption, a legislative project that is proposed by the Senate, by a senator that was proposing the adoption of an obligation of age verification for the porn sites. And this resistance is partly linked to political factors, and also, sadly, because of misinformation, so that people are often badly informed. The Prime Minister Trudeau, the son of Pierre Trudeau, which I mentioned earlier, He quoted risks for privacy, indicating that he did not want that shady sites would check the age of, implying that it would be the sites that would be have managed the process to identify or validate the identification of the users, taking completely abstraction of the possibility of passing this, of doing the double anonymity by passing it on to an official verification site. The National Global Mail, the national Canadian newspaper, mentioned the issue that the technology is not yet mature enough. The facial recognition is not able to determine or distinguish between someone who's got 17 or someone who's got 18, is 18-year-olds. But that is not the issue at all here. So it's really misinformation. But it's not just that. We noted during the pandemic that there was a big generalized distrust regarding authorities that try to insert themselves in the private life of people, even when it's about protecting minors. I think on top of that, that is the political aspect, but of course there's technological means that exist to undermine these verifications. There's a possibility of using VPNs, virtual private networks, so you will go to hide where we're connecting from and where the user or where the content providers are with VPNs, and so we avoid the verification instance. And we do not have to follow the applicable laws. There's also the fact that with the arrival of generative AI, now it's possible for young people to create their own porn video according to their fantasies. So there's clear ways to work around these protections. I think that these measures workarounds are actually reinforced by the fact that the economical model of these sites, they're based on the clicks, and blocking the access for minors means that you have less clicks and so less money, because not just the minors will be blocked, but there will be more friction for adults. They will have to go through a bottleneck before accessing the website. So neither the websites or neither the big part of the users would be motivated to follow these instructions without regulatory constraints that are being implemented and fines. There will also be potentially an interoperability problem of these age verification solutions. Will all sites accept all verification solutions, or will there be a trend of only accepting the solutions that are the most permissive? So it's not easy, in summary, but according to me, my opinion, there is an absolute urgent need to act, and it's not because we haven't got a solution that is going to resolve 100% of the issues that we shouldn't act nevertheless. If I could continue regarding your report, Charles, with Candace, because we've seen that we can have a regulatory legislative corpus that can provide an answer. We can have technological tools that provide answers, not perfect, but that contribute to providing responses. But we see that we have a difficulty in financing and an economical model. How between the user of these sites and the content providers, online content providers, how can we have an economical model that would allow us to improve things? Can we finance this model? How do you see things on this particular aspect of the economy? I think the first thing, this legislative corpus and regulatory corpus be interesting for the website. It needs to be sanctioned. You can have declarations of intention. I mean, these corpuses exist, but there's no sanctions. All they can do is, for the moment, they're not motivated to go beyond the click on I'm over 18 and then comment. So we need sanctions for people who do not respect the rules. Then there are many things that can be envisioned. I think the financing needs to be a private financing based from the websites who should finance the trusted third parties. It can't be the websites themselves that are going to collect personal data of the netizens that are going to visit these sites. So it needs to be free for the user, of course, for the social acceptability. If we start asking them to pay for the access, then it's not going to favor the deployment. It needs to be paying for the websites and some micro cents, because of course we're talking of millions of connections per day, 20 millions in France per day on porn sites. So it's pretty much the equivalent to banking transactions for some major merchant sites. So it needs to be built by transaction. Private websites, porn websites need to pay for it. And then the question is, do we need a structured ecosystem so that the economic model be simplified for the websites so that they don't have to contractualize with a number of trusted suppliers on the age verification? Maybe just work like the interest group of the credit card that has proposed an interesting economical model to manage all the financing flows via credit card over the internet. So maybe the last word, I wouldn't say that you couldn't say the last word, but at least to close this panel for today regarding the work that you have led for this report, and the topics we have just mentioned show that we still have some advances that are important in terms of online underage minors protection that become perceptible by our citizens. This of course raises the issue of where the digital identity stands in this debate, and beyond the topics we have just mentioned in the report generally, you also speak about the digital identity regarding the health issues and the democratic life. We are in an electoral life where almost half of the population is going to have to go to the polls. So we can see the challenge of trying to be able to democratically determine this without taking an overall lesson. What is your point of view to conclude in this report? Thank you, Jean-Michel. Just wanted to get back what you just said, both of you. And within our works on this report, we have identified a problem, which is the online age verification, which is a major issue of minor protection online. We've seen that in a couple weak solution like Ducapost has created a standard. It should be a standard. It's easy to be done. It works. The proof of concept has shown its work. Is it perfect? No. The VPN issue has been mentioned earlier. It's true that the minor that uses knows how to use a VPN, it's not someone who is 10-year-old. It's probably someone who is less sensible to the content. You can say the minor. We want to protect that someone who is 11-year-old and immature and access to the contents. The 11-year-old, the VPN is not going to know how to use it. So that is a false problem. But for the protection of minors, there are solutions that exist. We now need to get going. There's a political challenge now. The sanctions exist, but they're not applied. We don't know why. We know somewhat why, but so there's a huge political challenge here today, and I think that is missing is the political will to implement the solution. And this is a major learning that from the works we've done these past months. For the rest, what we've done is we discussed the issues that were really at individual level. What does the digital identity provides for the citizen in the netizen intel? I mean, minor protection, improving of the health experience via a health file, the democratic file, and also the protection against the identification of these new contents that are fake contents generated by AI. The idea was to show that in all these topics for the individual, digital identity is a game changer. So really improve people's lives. If I look at all the scientific works that have been carried out on all these topics, there is one common aspect. We've seen use cases that were single usage and others that were interconnected or multiple usage. I think it's absolutely important to push more and more towards the emergence of multi-usage solutions for lots of reasons. for economical reasons, of course, financing. It's easier to have you to finance a bouquet of solutions via participation of the state than a mono solutions for where you want to check a specific porn site. Also because multiple use helps you to have to get the data together. So we're going to avoid over collecting or duplicating data. That has a huge impact in terms of digital sobriety, and we need to have a very strong accent on, like all sustainable projects. We shouldn't be creating more data that is being stored everywhere. Multi-usage also has the advantage, since we're grouping the data, to allow to do more with less, as I already said, and it's easier to adopt for the users. If I have one app that allows me to do numerous things, the user is going to adopt it easier because he sees more benefits. He's not going to juggle with different applications. So it's easier, better sobriety, easier to adopt, and then I get back to the works we have done a couple of years ago with the foundation on the altruism regarding data, because all this, if we have a multi-usage solution that allows you to bring all the data together, we're going to have an empowerment of the individual. He's going to see his data. He's going to have much more easier access to it. Be able to secure it, to manage it in a more safer way. And so we create a true possibility of launching a movement of sharing your information. Because once we know that the data is protected, is safeguarded, we can decide to voluntarily to share them in the general interest. And so these works on the digital identity. It's a continuation of what we have started 3 years ago on the altruism in terms of data. So that what I wanted to say when we, at the moment we finish this report, is saying that the digital offer, that is a tool that is at the benefit of the individual, but also for society, beneficial for society. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for your participation and your passion that we've just heard on these topics that are very important for the protection of children online and for the public debate and the citizens' debate. I can imagine that this report is downloadable, will be available very soon on the Human Technology Foundation website. So I invite everyone here to continue this approach, is to have a look at this report on the website very quickly. Thank you for your participation and for your commitment on this topic. Thank you. Thank you for your participation.